off. No worries. But there's some good stuff happening here. I think there's going to be a lot of value you guys are going to get out of this today. All right, let's pause this music. Okay, folks. So I'm Gary Spagnoli. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're covering GA4, calling this GA4 Unplugged, a step-by-step guide to setting up custom reports. Let's get started. Welcome. You know, at any time, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or just leave a comment directly in the chat. I hope you guys are familiar with Google Meet. We're going with Meet for this one instead of Zoom because we're a Google Workspace agency and we're a Google agency. So let's go all in with the Google. All right, let's get into present mode. This is our third webinar in about 90 days. The last two webinars were about getting Google Analytics 4 set up. Now we're going to get into slightly more advanced stuff to talk about some of the custom reporting that you could put in place now that you have Google Analytics 4 in place. We are going to go through getting GA4 set up with what I recommend as best practices based on our experience of setting it up on dozens of sites now. But yeah, let's get into it. Thank you for joining me here today. So here's our agenda. We use a lot of sailing metaphors within our business. So these represent the points of sale. First, we're going to cover who we are. Then we're going to talk about some of the problems that we're facing with the new GA4. We'll talk about some of those solutions and the fundamentals to getting started. Then we'll cover understanding the GA4 interface and navigation, creating essential reports, customizing reports and making reports that are needed for your own business. Then we'll touch on some of the latest updates that have happened to GA4 just over the last, I'd say, 15 days. And then we'll open it up to Q&A. Overall, this meeting is going to take, or this webinar is going to take probably about 30 minutes. So we'll take the last half hour to open this up for any questions and working on it together. So from here, table of contents. This just gives us a better layout. No longer using that sailing metaphor. Oh, hey, Isaac. Thanks for joining us. Isaac's one of our team members here at Zen Anchor. Hey. So here's what we're covering. What are the problems? Some of the basic problems, some of the solutions, and then we're going to get into the details of those solutions after this, after that first section. Like I said, the fundamentals, understanding the interface, creating essential reports, customizing those reports, and some of the latest updates. This whole presentation and the recording, the links of the resources that we're providing, that will all be shared via email after this call. So if you miss anything, we'll be providing it to you. So I think there's a lot of useful links here. First, who the heck am I? And who are we? So I'm Gary Spagnoli. I'm the founder of Zen Anchor Digital, a Google partnered and Facebook partnered agency that specializes in SEO, PPC, email marketing, and marketing analytics. In 2022, we started a company called Analytics Mates. Basically, we took the analytics function of our larger agency and turned it into its own separate business. The way we grew this business or created this business was actually by hiring GA4 specialists and GA4 ex-Googlers, a lot of them coming from the Google Analytics 360 team. So here are some of the analytics mates, specifically only working on the Google Analytics 4 setups for our clients. Isaac Townsend, he's here with us now. He's our account manager. Laura is our project manager. Ken Bandong and Mark Anthony Tomeo, they are our analytics specialists. They are GA4 certified. They work in collaboration with me to help make sure the plumbing, the Google Tag Manager, all the tracking is in place properly. And then Vinith John, who was our lead designer and developer of the analyticsmates.com site. He also helps with some of the Looker Studio designs that we work on and the reporting designs for the visualizations. Some of the clients that we work with, our biggest account is with Gallagher Insurance. We manage some of the direct-to-consumer. We also work with the daily harvest. We led their Google Analytics 4 migration. US waterproofing is an account we've actually been growing with. In addition to that, there are other businesses in the insurance space and the health and wellness space that we work closely with. Some experience with e-commerce. The majority of our experience, though, is in lead generation and lead-based clients. So let's get into it. What are the challenges with Google Analytics 4? Raise your hand if you hate the new GA4, or leave it in the chat. I imagine most people don't like it, which is why they're joining. All right, not seeing much activity. That's all right. So here's 4 of the main challenges that we're seeing for any of our clients and for users that people are posting about in the forums and online. First is minimal standard reporting. When you first log into that Google Analytics interface, it's blank. It sucks. There's not the intuitive navigation that we are used to seeing from Universal Analytics, which we've worked on for years. Second, dimensions and metrics. Some of the definitions of dimensions and metrics have changed. And because of this, learning curve is steep. It's just a little bit more challenging to pull like a standard organic landing page report. How is my SEO doing, for example? And then also, it's still pretty buggy. When we go through the working session for any questions, I still run into bugs. You know, we're going to go into the analyticsmates.com data, and sometimes things don't load up properly, even though they should, and their own documentation says it should. But today, we're going to cover the fundamentals, get into the interface. Then we're going to talk about the differences between some of those key dimensions and metrics. We'll also set up some essential reports that will make things a little bit easier for you. Then we'll get into customizing new reports based off of requirements you may have for your business. So let's get into it. Getting started. GA4 is here. It's better than UA. It's a controversial take. I really do think it is better than Universal Analytics. The reason that we have issues with UA is that UA was using a cookie-based tracking and a pixel-based tracking for tracking traffic to a website. And now we have shifted to an event-based tracking, which is now allowing us to measure users across different platforms, different channels. It's also providing us more significant machine learning and AI tools embedded within GA4. Some of this analytics intelligence is allowing us to predict customer behavior, and now there's deeper integration with Google Ads and display and Video 360. A lot of the features that exist in Google Analytics 4 used to only exist within Google Analytics 360. If you guys are familiar with GA360, if any of you have worked with them before, GA360 is the paid premium program that Google offers to some of their advertisers. Last I checked, it was $60K a year to have. You pay extra, 60 grand a year, to have access to the GA360. A lot of the features that exist within GA360 are now by default, well, last year, features that were premium now within GA4. For example, the machine learning and the predictive customer behavior. So here are some of the benefits of GA4. It's scalable. It's updated more frequently. Universal Analytics, it's kind of been the same for since 2013, when it was really first rebranded as Universal Analytics from what was originally called Urchin, which was acquired by Google. It also has that machine learning. I talked about clearer insights because now we're able to utilize this data using things like BigQuery, using Looker. There's just a lot more customization that's available to us. And one of my favorite things as a marketer is the audience streams, which allow us to create deeper audience analysis. So funnel analysis, but also breaking out audience segments in more unique ways. So here's the bare minimum setup. We're going to get into it. I'll show you guys some screenshots in a moment how to do this. Does anybody not have GA4 set up already? Raise your hand if so, or leave a comment. Oh, forgive me. I went to screensaver mode while I was looking at that chat. No? Okay. So Here's the bare minimum setup. We are not officially Google. So I'm giving you opinions, best practices based off of our experience working with sites that generate millions of dollars in revenue and are really critical how they set up their GA. First, you create the property. Second, I always recommend installing it via Google Tag Manager. Third, you're going to update the data retention model. So we're collecting data for 14 months. By default, it is set to 2 months. Why? Google doesn't want to pay for storing all that data. Fourth, we're going to turn off automated UA events. That means the universal analytics events that were from your historical property, we don't want to have all of them because it can get messy. We're starting fresh, starting new. Let's make sure it's clean. Fifth, we want to turn off automated form submissions, or sometimes called automated conversions. I think it's called automated form submissions. Now, by default, this is on. Google does its best to make life easier for small businesses and non-analysts, and it tries to automatically track conversions for it for when people fill out a free consultation form or contact us form. It doesn't work that well. I do not recommend using their automated tool. So let's get into creating a property. You're going to head on over to analytics.google.com. You want to go over to the GA4 Setup Assistant after you create the property. So you click Create Property. Here, you're going to name your tool, your website. In this case, it would be the analyticsmates.com GA4 property. You may want to distinguish it from your universal analytics because you don't want to delete your old data of like your old website data. So every one that we've set up, we always just mark to state that it's the GA4 version. Next, you'll describe your business. From there, you have to choose one of the business objectives. In this scenario, I recommend either checking generate leads or drive online sales, unless you're running a blog site. You want to put this in a position so that you are taking action, and Google is going to know and take, what type of conversion actions are we tracking. Oftentimes, it's not just brand awareness or examining user behavior. From there, you're going to create a data stream. That data stream, if you're setting it up for the website, and we're only covering the website today, is for web. When you set up that data stream, that is when you plug in the exact URL. By default, when you create this stream, the following events are going to be tracked. It's important to know this: page view, scrolls, outbound link clicks, site search, video engagement, file download, form events, form start, and form submit. We'll talk about, again, I like turning off that form submit. What I want to call out is Universal Analytics did not have all of this by default. We used to have to send this up with Google Tag Manager. This is a benefit. This is another win. Outbound link click, you used to have to set up on GTM. So by default, it being included so that we could see how many people are leaving our site to go to another referral is highly valuable. So you create the data stream. Let's assume we have Google Tag Management installed on our site. Here, you are going to want to copy the measurement ID, this measurement ID, copy that. You're going to go over to Google Tag Manager, go to your container, create a new tag, and choose a GA4 configuration. In that measurement ID field, that is where you will copy and paste what I showed on the previous slide. Make sure that you want to send a page view event. Check this off when you get this in place and hit save. You should be set up then with GTM. Let's jump ahead. I want to cut ahead a little bit here to some of the modifications that we recommend. From here, I want to update the data retention to 14 months. By default, it's set to 2 months. If we have 360, Google Analytics 360, you could actually extend that. Increasing the data retention will allow us to build custom audience streams in the future. It'll just help us out. So where do we do this? This would be found under the admin section, under property settings, data retention. I'm going to show you guys directly in the account. Let's get out of this presentation. because by default, this isn't going to be set. So hold on. This should be found under data settings, data retention. Here's where you're going to change it. Event data retention. So just swap it out here and you should be good to go. After that, you want to turn off the automated universal analytics events. To do so, you have to go to the admin, click on data streams, and in your property column, click on the web data stream that we just mentioned. So that would be found under here, data streams. We're going to click here. We want to modify events. Oh, not modify events. This is going to be under the settings. Found here. This is the form click. Give me one sec. This is why I had to take the screenshots. So under settings, collect UA events. You know, it's not appearing here because I've already put this in place within this account. But this actually gets to the next slide because under the settings here, by default, form interactions are checked on. You want to turn that off. You may want to turn off some of these other things too, like scrolls, outbound clicks, or site search. There could be issues with outbound clicks, not, it might be rendering other sites that you own or manage. You may not need that data. It might be clouding, causing clutter. So some of these automated ones you may want to turn off. Just walk through this on how to turn off those form submissions. In addition to that, I highly recommend turning on automated filters to filter that internal traffic. You don't want your own IP addresses, your own marketers, your own developers to distort your data. So to do so, you go under the admin section, you click on the data stream again, click on the web data stream, configure the tag settings, and click define internal traffic. Once you define that internal traffic using specific IP addresses, you can then add this as a filter directly through here. So you want to click create after you add in your individual IPs. Next, why the hell are we setting up GA4? We want to track some sort of business activity that helps move things towards a sale or towards an activity, a business objective, what we're trying to accomplish. So let's talk about conversion creation. The first thing is selecting events as conversions. What's awesome about GA4 is you're now able to just check off any of the events that are by default being added. So any event that's passing into the platform, you could just mark them as a conversion. This is the quickest way. This saves you a lot of time. In the past, you'd have to use Google Tag Manager. You'd have to set up goals. Those goals, there used to be limits on. Now we could have up to 20 different conversions. I think the old cap on the amount of goals you could have in an account was about 12. So you can select any individual event as a conversion. You can also create events as conversions the old school way in Google Tag Manager. So a trigger can be set to send a specific type of conversion. We're not going to get that deep into the GTM setup. Well, let's get into understanding the GA4 interface and the reports. So let's pull up two things here. First, I want to get into the actual account so that we could talk about this. Let's leave. All right, we actually have some data in here because this is our live account. First thing I want to call out is number one, in the navigation, we now search for specific reports that we put in place. So for example, we could look for our organic landing pages and just search by the top page title by users for first user medium of organic search. The search functionality in GA4 is very powerful. I did not create this beforehand. You can now see that this is showing me that our top page over the last 7 days was get instant access to Google Analytics for experts. It was the home page. Second was this webinar page just through organic. So search is actually a little bit more powerful, well, significantly more powerful than where it was in Universal Analytics. Second, want to call out the linkage that you may want to set up with this top right corner. You will want to integrate with Google Tag Manager and with Google Ads. You're going to be able to do so by selecting up here. Third, in terms of the navigation, this is where you're going to want to explore and create your own custom reports. But by default, there are some reports given to us. For example, our old school acquisition, where it's showing us the top channels for driving traffic to our site. It also gives us a breakdown of engagement, monetization. We're going to get into actually exploring and creating custom reports, though, in a minute. Another neat thing about GA4 is you are now able to customize the reports found on the Explore page, on the reporting page. So by default, this is the report snapshot. You can choose what type of metrics or custom reports you want to include here. So, for example, users by city or new users by first user default channel group, I can add this to my default dashboard so that it's just a little bit quicker so that you can customize. You may want to remove some of this. I'm seeing almost all of our conversions through our site happen through web, so that might not be as valuable. And let's save these changes to the current report, because why the hell not? All right, now let's get into some of the differences. First, let's talk about the difference between users. The primary user metric in UA was the total number of users. In GA4, it is the total number of unique users who logged an event. What the hell does that really mean? What it means is if I, Gary, went to a website and it loaded, the cookie loaded, the tracker loaded on Universal Analytics, it counts. That's a user. On GA4, if I come to a website and a page load event occurs, which happens by default, I've waited for this page load event to occur, then I count as a user. If I leave the site and visit the site again through another device, it will still count as only one user for me because it recognizes that I'm coming from the same account, like the same individual. It tracks that through our Google account, in this case, the Gmail account that I'm logged into. So it'll be aware that I'm visiting from two different devices. In this, and it will count me only as one user. The active user metric is really important to call out too. Active users on Universal Analytics represents, it didn't even really exist. We looked at bounce rate. I'm sorry. Bounce rate represented whether an individual visited one page on the site and then left. What was the frequency of them just visiting one and then leaving? Now we're able to see types of engagements that occur on the site. So if they engage and interact, what that means is they click. They don't just load up the page. They don't just scroll. They click around. That will count as an active user. That will count as an active user. Now, page views are known as views. So every, what used to be page views in your reporting, you're just going to look up views. Slightly different change. Unique page views, all page views are now unique in the GA4 world. Purchases, very similar to how it was structured in UA. There aren't significant differences between the two. On the session front, though, that is a period of time when a user is actively engaged with your website. Now we're looking at sessions rather than sessions. So let me accept this person to join. Yeah, so rather than looking at sessions, let's look at session start. We talked a little bit about that bounce rate for the active user. One thing I want to call out is in UA, that was the percentage of people with single page sessions with no interaction. Now, though, the percentage of non-engaged sessions refers to the proportion of sessions where users quickly visit a website's homepage but leave within 10 seconds. So now we could look at non-engaged sessions. So if they visit a site but leave within 10 seconds, then it would be considered non-engaged. So rather than look at bounce rate, we look at non-engaged. Conversions, like I said, I think there's a lot of overlap with how conversions were tracked previously within UA. There is just greater removal of any sort of like redundancy because of that cross-device and cross-platform tracking. Events, now every hit is considered an event. In the past, we used to have separate custom events that were put up with UA. Totally different now. So now we're just looking at every activity that occurs on the website is considered an event. Here's a cool tool. There are still some dimensions and metrics within Google Analytics 4 which are incompatible with each other. GA has, or Google has offered a tool that allows us to see which of these metrics are not able to interact or work with one another. So I highly recommend, so you could see user type, I could see users versus new users. If I check off, for example, traffic sources, source medium, it will show me which other types of metrics are in, I cannot track using that source medium. So this is a neat tool that will allow us to identify when there are bugs that we're facing between those different dimensions and metrics. An example can be seen here. Google Ads, it's not fully compatible with every event within GA4. Here's a full list of some of those attribution dimensions and events that aren't connected. Again, you can find this directly through the tool. They're working to map some of these and fix some of this. But if you're ever going crazy while building a custom report, you're like, why the hell can I not see the total amount of purchase revenue or the average purchase revenue associated with this Google Ads campaign? You'll know that it's a lack of the feature within Google Analytics 4 today. It's not a bug. Here's another example here on the default channel grouping dimension. For here, we can see that there are limits on the total event count that we can go through. So I can't see product revenue by the default channel group today. So things like product revenue. So there is a solution to this. It's a bit technical. It involves creating a custom metric, which could be done using Google Tag Manager, especially if it's already set up. So within GTM, you could create an event count with a separate value. If that, and so by default, you want to make sure you are in GTM. You're going to create a custom metric. You're going to name that custom metric something unique. You can't use hyphens in the name. Enter the name of the event parameter and the unit of measurement, and then click Save. You'll then be able to see, this is an example, an event count for email sign up event. So Google Tag Manager will allow you to create any sort of custom events that you want to include within your report. So in Google Analytics 4, similar to UA, there were a handful of default reports. It's not as intuitive as it used to be because there's still that learning curve. Acquisition, engagement, there's some monetization review, which is just like our old e-commerce setup. First thing I want to call out is filtering your acquisition or your user acquisition report. You can add filters based off of things such as the device platform that they're on. For example, you could filter by Android users only. Second, there is this notification. You guys have probably seen this craziness. This shows that there may be limits to the amount of data that is available to you in this report. There are data thresholds on Google Analytics at this time. It's usually a larger problem for smaller sites. So on very small sites, you may see a warning that the data quality may be a little bit lower. And so it's Google giving you a warning that there may be some discrepancies because of tracking challenges that are not because of Google, but because there's so little volume of events that they struggle to, give you clear insights here. To change the date range in the top right corner. Here you'll be able to compare against those different default channel groups. And then at the end, you can share this as a PDF just like you used to in UA, or you could export it as a CSV. Here's something neat. You do get insights as well, automated insights. It's still a little bit tough. It's not in the best spot yet, but I do think that in the near future, as you continue to collect data to your website, you'll be able to get automated recommendations and key insights provided to you by clicking on this insights option in the top right corner. So here we're going to talk about how to customize which dimensions and charts appear in our default channel group. For example, conversion data. When you select Customize Report, you're going to see this pop out on the right side. By default, all these things are included. What we're going to want to do is we're going to add a metric. So we're going to go to Metrics. Metrics is going to show these alternatives. So you can add a metric. In this situation, we're looking at conversions. Let's select conversions, and then in the bottom right corner, hit apply. And now we're sorting by the top top default channel groups that are driving conversions to our website. Let's do this together directly in GA. So here we see our user acquisition by first user default channel group. We're going to customize reports. I'm going to select metrics. I'm going to sort by conversions by default so that I can see these are the top channels driving conversions to our site today. I could filter this by different types of conversions. For example, the webinar signups, the webinar that we are on right now. This, over the last 28 days, was the default period. You could see that the majority of our signups came through organic social. Furthermore, we could filter this by not just the default channel groupings, but we could see, okay, what channels do they actually come, like what websites do they come from? You could see that LinkedIn is where most of you guys registered from. So LinkedIn was our top performing channel. There is a way for us to then break this out even further, where I can look at the city breakdown for some of these channels. So our top conversions, I have 3 conversions that came out of Chicago, 2 that came out of Minneapolis from LinkedIn specifically. And so there are ways in which you could add that secondary dimension that used to exist within Universal Analytics here. I'm going to save. No, let's get rid of the city report. I don't care about that. I'm going to save this for the first user source, and I'm going to save it to the current report. So instead of looking at default channel group, when I go to the user acquisition report now, it's going to show me first user source medium. So instead of it saying organic social did really well, it got me the most conversions, it's going to show me LinkedIn is doing really well. And you can see all of the visualizations updated. All right, let's get back into the presentation. Let me move this. We covered this, customizing. Let's jump ahead. Let's talk about replicating universal analytics reports. This can be done by clicking on the edit button in the top right corner, that little pencil icon. You can create a new report under the library section. Here, we could do things like looking at our organic landing page report. I also want to show you a couple things that are going to maybe blow your mind, rather than just that replicating those reports. There is a classic GA4, which I thought was pretty neat. We have a variety of different dashboards that we're sharing on analyticsmates.com. We did not make this. This was made by a company called Upmise Analytics. This is using all GA4 data, and it gave us the visualization that was used within UA originally. In addition to that, you guys can see some of the others that we're sharing on our resource page. I also have a live dashboard, which you can clone, that is found directly in the navigation of our site. It includes all the GA4 data that we're reviewing on the call. Looker is your friend. You're going to want to use Looker for building out some of these custom reports rather than just the custom reports found within the interface of GA4. You want to import this data into Looker, which is the data visualization platform. All right, let's go into Explore. I want to show this as a sample of the type of quick report that you want to make. Let's say we want to create a report that shows us hourly sessions or sessions by day. You know, in the past, we would look at hourly sessions. You're going to want to click on Freeform first. So go to the reports, click on Freeform. In this left section, these are the variables. You're going to select some of the variables. You're going to drag and drop them into the settings so that you can visualize it found in this right panel. So let's say we want to include the total amount of organic traffic. We're going to click on user segment. We're going to select add a new condition. We're going to look for session source medium. I'm going to add a filter so where it contains Google Organic. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to name this organic Google traffic, or if I want to get really proper, session source medium organic Google traffic. We had 61 visitors over the last 28 days attributed. So this is the segment I have added versus the total volume. By default, the rows are set to city. I don't want city. I don't care about city. What I want to look at is actually landing page. So we're going to search for landing page or query string under the dimensions section. So what are our top sources of traffic, organic traffic to landing pages? We have to drag and drop this into a row. This might take a moment to load. 1 second. Oops. Here we go. It's dropping under columns. That's why. Oh, and I'm still dropping it under columns. You know, what we're seeing here is actually, it's not giving me the data I want. I knew I was going to run into one of these bugs. It's segmenting it by device category. Here we go. Cool. So now I'm able to see the top organic pages that have driven traffic to the site. So here are our top organic pages. Let's say you want to keep this report. You can download this as a PDF. You could save it as a Google Sheet, or you can click share. When I select share, this should actually save this under the Explore section. 1 second. It's going to take a moment to load. Oh, the name of this report is still saved as freeform. I'm going to rename this as Organic Top Indicators. Now, I mentioned tracking things such as how much traffic by the hour. There's an option to add granularity here. So let me see where I could find this. This should be found under no, I'm not going to be able to do it because of the page path. The key thing that I want to emphasize, though, is that you have to choose the dimensions and metrics in this left variables column, drag and drop it into the settings area, and then you can build the visualization here. By default, it's going to show you a table view. I prefer the table view for a lot of this, but you may prefer bar chart layouts. This is showing us the same number because it's all the same amount of active users by default. However, that is not the best visualization. Let's just use a table for now. So, all right. That's a sample of how to create some of these reports within the account. I just went through some of this. So it's going to be in the PowerPoint as well. Creating those custom reports, there's the three main parts that were described. Let's talk about some of these GA4 updates now. A couple things that have been added. There's now an audiences section. That audience will allow us to create separate audiences for all users, leads, purchasers, cart abandoners, checkout abandoners. User attributes under audiences, they're expanding on this. There's also now Floodlight integration. If you guys are using Floodlight. Also, they just released the Google Sheets connector, which will allow us to import, export, and play with the data directly within Google Sheets. Some helpful tools that I highly recommend checking out. One of them is called data.ga4.spy.com. This allows us to see what are the new dimensions and metrics that we can compare. So if we were to look up the session source or the medium, things such as the default channel group, organic search, this is a great way to quickly search to see what are the old universal analytics metrics that I want to be able to identify within GA4. All right, I went on too long. Let's talk Q&A. Let's open up the floor to y'all. What questions do you guys have for me? Are there specific reports you want me to try to build out with you on call? You could leave a chat directly in the Google Meet. Silence. Okay. No questions? We have a few minutes. I'm going to be sharing this PowerPoint with some more of the information and the knowledge. I want to emphasize that we started this through Zen and Crew Digital, this Analytics Mates business. Analytics Mates was designed to offer GA4 certified specialists so that we could build those custom reports for you, help set up Google Tag Manager, basically get access to a GA4 specialist as an assistant. We have a really good review rating on Clutch right now, and we're starting at only $1,000 a month. And you guys have my contact info for booking consultation. But I heard one of you guys unmute yourself. What questions do you have for me? How do you do this directly in the account? Or maybe even make edits to some of these looker reports.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you show me again how I can set up custom dashboard in GA4?
Sure. So where you're going to want to hang out is under the Explore section. And the main spot that I would recommend going to is going to be under Freeform. Under the Freeform report, here you're going to choose the different dimensions and metrics that you may want to evaluate. See, by default, it's only showing me event name, gender, country. Give me an example. What type of report do you want to look at? This is a lead gen site, so I don't have e-commerce data in front of us. So I'm not going to be able to pull revenue data, unfortunately. Is there a specific one that you want me to pull? Maybe what are our top devices that are driving traffic to the site? So we can import the device brand. I'm going to remove this as a city. We're going to look at top devices. By default, it's showing us the most active users. The columns are broken out by device category between mobile, desktop, and tablet. It's probably not the best thing to do. I think it's probably better to look at things like the first user source. Let's get rid of device brand. So you could see here that our referral traffic primarily came from desktop. Our ad traffic, CPC, came mostly from mobile devices. If you want to save this report, you're going to select, hold on, this is not the option to rename. You're going to select Share Report. We're going to go back to Explore. By default, it's saved as Freeform. We're going to rename this. What is it that we pulled? Top first user source by device category. And then you save this report. Here's where I would go, though. I'm showing you guys the GA4 interface. Let's talk real world. Where the hell are we really going, though? Usually, I'm going directly to Looker Studio. So lookerstudio.google.com. I would take one of the templates, one of the dashboards that we have, and I'm going to send you guys a bunch of templates for you to review. We have an e-commerce template that you can modify, found here. There may be some minor issues with it right now. This report, though, you could copy and paste to see how many sessions, product views, add to carts, checkouts, and purchases are happening. Again, you can clone this report and connect it to your own data here. We have a collection of different Data Studio templates that you can use that help us visualize and get us to the core marketing metrics that we like to use as marketers. So here's one of our analytics e-commerce templates that's shared at analyticsmates.com/resources. In addition to that, let me pull up some of these others. We have our overall digital performance dashboard, which I shared some samples of. This is using analyticsmates.com data. We also have a SaaS performance report, which will allow us to see how many form starts, different variants of that. I also have an SEO report, so I'll include that in the email afterwards. Give me one sec. I'll send it over to you guys after this call so that you can copy it. Pull this up. Here I've recorded a video that you could see at analyticsmates.com resources that allow you to clone those templates. All right, let me get back into the presentation. What other questions do you guys have? The thing that I love about GA4 and our team is we send out these weekly emails, and these emails we look at every Monday. This one was sent by Mark from our team, and we basically go through and say, hey, what are the top channels for getting leads so far? Where are we getting those leads? What are our top landing pages? And what are our recommendations as to how we can potentially improve this? So we send this to all of our accounts every Monday. That's the benefit of having an analytics assistant. But you can kind of automate some of this just by duplicating this dashboard and then manually doing it yourself. Cool. All right, I'm going to jump off screen share. Stop presenting. Any other questions, team? Otherwise, we're going to wrap. Sounds like one of you guys came off mute, but all good. Hey, thank you so much. We're going to send this recording out to everyone via email. Please share this out. If you have absolutely any questions or feedback on this webinar as to what you would want to have covered during our next one, because we're going to run another one next month, let me know. Just reply to the email. We'll also be sending out a survey, though. But thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk more online. Cheers.